be.
Oh, sorry. It would help if I started the video. It says it's unable to detect a camera.
If you unmute us, we can at least, I guess, get going. Okay.
Okay. We're gonna need some issues with the camera.
We can start it anyway.
Yeah, we're starting.
Okay. No video at the moment, but we're going to get going. Good morning. This is Board of County Commissioners, Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda review for Monday, July 17th, 2023, 9 a.m. And the public can follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. My name is Ty Menser, Vice Chair of the Board. With me is Commissioner Gary Edwards and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. We have various staff members here, and we're doing a kind of unusual Monday morning agenda review because we had a board recess that ended on Friday, and so we're going to be looking over the proposed agenda for tomorrow's meeting, which is Tuesday, July 18th, normal time at 2 p.m. And that's all we're going to do here this morning for this session, and then we'll have. Do we have an agenda setting tomorrow morning?
Yes.
We do, but I think depending if there are any residual questions today, we might be able to shorten tomorrow's
Because next Tuesday there isn't a board meeting.
Correct. So
yeah,
there isn't
okay.
one for next week. There is just for tomorrow afternoon. So we'd be doing 2 reviews 2 days in a row and the actual meeting tomorrow afternoon. So
Okay.
I would leave that up to the board.
Okay, so we will be back tomorrow at 9, but it might be an abbreviated agenda setting tomorrow. Okay, so I'm just going to walk through what we've got here. We're going to call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. We will look at approving the agenda for this meeting formally and go right to an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update. Anything that Assistant County Manager or Commissioner you want to say about any of those introductory items?
No,
Okay,
sir.
very good. Then we'll look at our consent agenda, which is A through C. Item 3A is an auditor's item, and it's voucher list, July 10th.
So this voucher list from July 10th does not have any atrium expenses, so therefore it is on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
For a total of $1.9 million.
Okay, good to go there. Item 3B is information technology, interlocal agreement with Thurston Regional Planning Council for sharing GIS data. Sherry Ilg, IT Director. Welcome. Thank you. Tell us what this one's all about.
So we've had an interlocal or an interagency agreement with Thurston Regional Planning Council for a long time. We just felt like it was time to update it. So it's been rewritten, and we're looking to have this approved for GIS data. Sorry, I should be specific.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess my only question would be, is this some mechanism of charging?
We just share.
regional Planning, what's
We-
the agreement?
Well, we get some of their data and use it in our GIS maps.
So there's no financial involvement,
Just the data sharing.
just kind of working together.
Yeah.
So the ILA would like set limits on ability to, I mean, what does the ILA need to accomplish?
Well, the fact that we're sharing data and what they can do with our data and what we can do with their data, it gives some specifics around it. And it, like I said, it's been in place for a decade, but we just thought it was time to look at it and redo it.
It's been bought off on by the prosecutor's office, I take it.
Is there anything you could say about what, like, any changes of note?
No, really no changes. It's just updating it, new signatures. Yeah.
Good to go there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have one more thing to ask. I do have one more item that didn't make it onto the agenda for today, and I'm hoping that we can add it later on. As part of the ERP project, we're trying to hire some staffing augmentation to help us get over the hump with the ERP project. And I just don't have the final proposed contract yet. We want to waive the bidding requirements or the competitive bidding requirements to enter into that agreement with the vendor. So I'd like to bring it back tomorrow morning and review it if possible, and get it on the agenda for tomorrow afternoon. We're in a very tight time crunch because the projects, they're rebaselining that project, and we would like to have them on board before we start making decisions about timing.
We'll have more of an update on, that's part of the agenda tomorrow, an update on the ERP project. And a big piece of that is being able to enhance the capacity of the team on our side of the equation, as much as we're working with Sierra Cedar to potentially reassign key personnel on their side as well. This just will provide us the additional to get over the hump.
An
as,
internal Oracle expert we're looking for, because we don't have one, and a lot of the delays are caused by maybe miscommunication, I believe. So if we had someone on our side who really understood the product, they'd be able to push back or help in the understanding.
This would be within our budget.
I actually have $750,000 of savings, salary savings so far this year that I could use to fund this.
Is this a full-time position?
It's contract hours, so we pay by the hour for a couple different resources through a consulting company. There's a state contract, but it requires has a second level bidding requirement, so I'm asking to waive that requirement and sign a contract with this.
The internal auditor?
Yeah, we've already done the review of the contract and all that stuff. Yep. Yeah, Cody managed that. I just don't have the final numbers, so I couldn't really submit it yet.
So the hope is to get final numbers today, finalize the AIS, and then if the board is willing to have it added to tomorrow's afternoon's agenda, that would help us to keep the project, not delay it from another perspective, because our ability to have that internal capacity will allow us to get to a point where we can kind of finalize the rebasing and renegotiate the finals or revised scope and timeline. We hope to get it for in August.
You were hoping to get a vote on this tomorrow?
I
I
will
guess we
bring
can review
more
it and see what it entails tomorrow.
Mhm.
It's just not on today's agenda or tomorrow's agenda yet, so I just have to get permission to add it. But I'll bring you all the details tomorrow morning. If I don't have it, I won't even show up. Well, I'll show up because I have
Do
other
show
things
up
to
and
talk
let us know,
about.
thanks. That would be appreciated.
Okay, more to come.
More to come.
Very soon.
Mhm.
Save questions for tomorrow. Okay, let's go to consent item 3C from the treasurer. Authorized sale of tax title property via private negotiation to Dale Luger.
Eric?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Anything you want to share, Eric? We're not hearing you.
I just want to make sure you can hear me. I tested my microphone and it wasn't working, and so can you hear me okay?
Eric, we're not hearing you.
Good.
Not sure why.
Is he talking?
Your square was lit up for a moment as if you were speaking, but we weren't getting audio.
Can you hear me now?
In the interest of, sorry about that, Eric. Not sure what's happening on the tech side. This Monday is one of those Mondays, I think, when it comes to technology.
Just move forward and come back.
Yeah, we can do that if you'd like, and see if we can pick him up. Otherwise, we have information in the AIS that I can review.
Okay, well, let's move forward. We'll double back when we get Eric online. Items 4, A, B, and C are just voucher lists, I assume with Atrium tenant improvement, pieces. They're on the, department for auditor section of the agenda. The dates involved are June 19th, June 26th, and July 3rd. Did you have any questions, Commissioner, on that?
Well, I do, but I don't know if they've got
Okay.
the ability to cover that.
So, we do have each one of these three items, for the vouchers for the June 19th, 26th, and July 3rd do have expenses related to, the atrium. On the week of July 3rd, well, I'll start maybe in chronological order. So the June 19th voucher you will find on page 29. It's the expenses for the HR training room AV system, with two expenses, one totaling $22,975.51, and then one for $14,917.86.
Both of those are for the training room.
Both for the training room.
Okay.
And on the voucher for the week of June 26th, on page 27, you will find an expense for $45,855.70 for furniture, plexiglass, and logistics is how it's been itemized. And then for the July 3rd voucher, we have on page 66, expenditures related to the boardroom here, the TV upgrade. And that's there's three expenses related to those upgrades. One for $4,883.71, one for $4,559.41, and the final one for $10,935.75.
And it's all about this system that doesn't work.
These, we had some changes in our Zoom cams, I think that unfortunately may not have been configured as we had hoped, and so we are going to try to patch people, or Brandy will work some magic and hopefully we'll be able to pick up the audio.
And are all of these items, are they all coming out of the general fund?
These would all be coming from, and I don't know if Nicole, if you have a better answer, but I believe it would all be those dollars or the budget that was set aside for the atrium improvements, tenant improvements.
So back to today's meeting problem is what has people been able to hear so far?
They can hear us, we can't hear them.
And Rodney's gonna reinstall the computer camera and speaker to get it to work. They didn't tell us that they did that last week. But in the media room, she can hear everybody.
We can keep going.
And you guys, they can all see you guys too. The camera, on YouTube, you can see it.
Oh, you can see,
us, even
okay.
though We can't see that they can see us.
So that's just an interaction with Zoom. It's a Monday.
Okay,
Um,
okay, are we,
So yes, all from the tenant improvement budget.
Commissioner Edwards, good on items 4A, B, and C, okay. Let's go to item 5, approval of resolution for public safety tax ballot proposition.
So this is,
Oh, I'm sorry, we do have Eric here.
I
Let's
ran
Oh.
over here.
double back, let's double
Come
back
on
and
back.
get our treasure item. Come on out here to the table.
that way the microphone,
Oh, okay.
hopefully
Get
they're
the
working
best
and
audio.
Yeah, I tested my mic, it worked, but as soon as I went on the Zoom thing, you guys couldn't hear me.
Yeah, you're not the only.
Oh, okay, so I wasn't sure it was my mic or not, I had it unmuted.
yeah,
You.
no.
Eric Sullivan from the Treasurer's Office, I do all the tax title foreclosures. That item agenda is for a tax title property, as you know, tax title are properties that revert to the county in trust.
Then people bid on them as they want to purchase them. We don't own them. Mr. Luger put a bid in for this piece of property. It's basically non-buildable, so we went through all the process, verify everything, and basically putting it up for a consent item for the board.
When you say non-buildable, what is that?
It basically is, it means it's not practical, so they're unable to just, start getting permits and things like that. They would, like, this place is wetlands, it's between I-5 and a railroad. I also believe, if I remember right, it has like electrical wires over it, so for whatever purpose he wants to purchase it for, that's totally up to him. But, because it's not practical to build on, we do what's called a private negotiation and just.
How many acres is it?
This one is, I think, it's like 3.26.
What's the value?
Current value for 2023 is 37,400, and he is, looks like, purchasing it for about 6,100 with fees and everything. So, and by activating this again, it gets it back on the tax roll based on that taxable value. That is what goes back into, the general fund, supports the TCAs, but as a trust piece of property, it's a zero value, so there's no taxes even paid. So our whole obligation is to try to get these back on the rolls for when people are interested in them.
Does this gentleman have adjoining property or anything?
No, he is, I believe, let's see, I believe he's from out of town, if I remember. Just have to see where his address is. I don't believe he has an adjoining property, but he is in Rochester. That's where he. Centralia.
I'm kind of curious how we can go from the assessor evaluating it at 37,000 and selling it for 67?
61.
61. Yeah.
61.
So you also have to remember that these are, tax title properties are sometimes sitting as tax title and trust of the county for, we have some from the early 1900s. So when it went to actual auction back then, or 10, 15 years ago, you're looking at a value that was way lower, and then the principal amount that we tried to sell it for was way lower. And the statute states that we can sell this for no less than the actual tax amount at the time we tried to sell this. So back in 2013, when this went to a tax sale, the actual dollar amount for the principal amount, if you look at the deed, was only about $1,300. So by law, we could sell this to this gentleman for that amount. That's the minimum we can accept, because our goal is to try to get back the taxes that we didn't pick up back then. So that's why what we tell them, we'd like a higher bid, but I can't tell them what to bid, of course.
How long have we held this property?
This one goes back 10 years. So this has been tax title since 2013.
And our legal people have looked at it for all stuff.
Yeah, because we're following RCWs and our resolution that allows us to do this. It's basically set in state law.
Well, if you don't get rid of it, the tree will grow up on it and fall in the road, so.
Or on I-5,
Mm.
And these are, for years and years, tax title work really, we didn't have really a person or a department that kind of did it. So about 3 or 4 years ago, a resolution was created that we asked that the treasurer's office start doing this, because we are the office that actually tries to take them to sell when we have to do a tax foreclosure. So it kind of made sense to us as if we also did the tax title. And basically what we do is put all the information on our website, and when people have an interest, it's up to them to do their research, put a bid in, and then that gets to where we are now.
Kitsap treasurer.
Mhm.
this?
The treasurer does it
Okay.
in Kitsap as well. However, I would argue that probably isn't a really good list of what tax titles are out there. So
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of remnants here and there that
That's,
having
that's,
that inventory.
that's
is a
another
hard
thing with
part.
tax title properties, you have to remember that everything that went to foreclosure, there's a reason it went to foreclosure. So if no one bid on it and it became tax title, it's usually because it's, yeah, just told you possibly can't do anything with it. Might be wetlands, could be a private roadway, could be, I mean, many different things. There's reasons people won't bid on it. And so that's why they sit there for so long. And a lot of times people come up and they just research these and they think, oh, I'll put a bid on that and maybe one day I'll be able to build on it or something. And that's why people come forward and want to buy it. And I mean, it only does one thing positive, and that's to get it back on the roll. So we start collecting taxes that go back into the system. Otherwise, that's money we don't have, regardless of the amount. It's all based on the assessed value after he gets it purchased.
Do we ever look at like this, I know where this property is, like
Yeah.
if it's spotted frog habitat that we would be interested in or something as far as offsetting some of our endangered species issues?
Not that I know. We don't. The problem, the tough thing with tax title properties is we do not own them. We're just holding them in trust until someone bids on it and wants to purchase it.
But there would be nothing to preclude the county from.
I don't believe so.
I know that's one thing we're always struggling to find is adequate mitigation property on habitat. So is there any chance we could ask that question before we go ahead? I mean, I'd hate to find out later that, well, we had 3 acres over here that's full of spotted frogs. I don't know. Are we in a rush? Any reason that this has to be done right now? Couldn't wait a week or two, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. It's
Could
something I
we
could
have our
discuss.
folks from CPAD at least look at it and see? I mean,
Sure.
I don't know the boundaries and if they've never been checked.
I think, I mean, from a habitat mapping standpoint, whether or not it overlaps.
Yeah,
we can
it
do
might show.
Probably a pretty quick assessment of
Pretty quick
that.
check, yeah.
I'm not sure what position we would be in already having negotiated an agreement with someone. If you can kind of go back on that at this point in time, I'm not, I mean, it's not approved, but
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if the commissioners have to approve it, then
it's not done
It's
until it's
obviously
done.
we have that, it's subject to that final
Mhm.
step, I would think. Otherwise, there'd be no point in this.
Yeah.
Debating this.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll,
I mean, I'm good with that, Commissioner. Sounds like, good. I mean,
So,
If somebody
um,
wants to get back to me and I can discuss that with Jeff, he's gone this week, and then we could discuss.
But
Could
like
we
you say,
proceed,
I don't think it's gonna take much to look at the overview map.
no, whether or not we can get that a good response prior to tomorrow's meeting, or would the board prefer just pushing this out to April 1st? I mean, sorry, August 1st.
I just
say
would push it out.
August 1st.
Yeah, rather than
Okay.
give them some opportunity. Somebody might be out of the office.
So email me on that?
Mhm.
Okay. or
So
let Jeff
we'll,
know.
we will push it out to the
Yeah, that's
first, but then between now and then, we'll let you know what we
All
find
right.
out.
All right,
as we
thank
inform.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Item 5B is also under Commissioners, it's interlocal agreement to form opioid abatement council independent subcommittee.
Commissioner, I believe we're on 5A,
Oops.
the public safety sales tax.
Oh, yeah, I called that and then I skipped back. Okay, correct. 5A, approval of a resolution for public safety tax ballot proposition.
Not sure what more to add to this other than.
Have we got that verbiage,
We did.
here attached somewhere for the
Mhm.
public?
Yes, it is there as part of the EIS, it was able to be finalized. Ramiro, prior to, going out of town, was able to finalize the language with the prosecuting attorney.
Have we got that? You say, I don't see it in my
I'll get you a
packet.
copy right now.
Pardon?
I'll get you a copy right now.
Oh, okay.
Keep in mind. is attached to the AIS. But again, per the terms of the, what the ballot measure would be proposing to put onto the general election a proposition to county voters authorizing an additional sales and use tax at a rate of 0.2% in accordance with RCW 8214-450 to be used exclusively to support law enforcement services and associated infrastructure, including facilities, 75% of the remaining amount that remains with the counties, because statute requires a 60-40 split. So of the revenues that are actually generated, 60% would stay with the county if approved. And then of that 60%, 75% would go towards the law enforcement services, associated infrastructure and facilities, and then the remaining 25% would go to support additional prosecution and public defense and election security infrastructure with that 25%.
I don't see the no supplanting portion in
The
here.
bottom of page 1, last whereas.
Whereas all money received shall not be used to supplant funding for any ongoing services and or programs.
And legal has looked this over and
Correct.
there's not little wiggle room built into that statement that, well, but we get 10% to do. We're good to go. I mean, that'll all come out in the public arena when they have public debate over the issue,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so.
So I think,
I know the sheriff is very concerned about potentially that being an issue.
mm-hmm. The supplanting, non-supplant language just means that it is really focusing on the additive services and or capacity within the sheriff's office and or other departments.
Is the, I know there were lots of, editing going on, and I saw 2 or 3 different iterations. So at the top of page 2, is that first whereas? Is that design, I'm trying to remember, because I had the concern about wanting it to be clear that when we said the 75-25, I wanted something in there as simple and elegant as possible, but clearly indicating that that 75-25 split that's described in the second whereas of that page refers to the county's portion of what's retained. And it may not be that if you looked at the overall amount of tax paid, it may not break 75-25 because we can't control what the cities will do with their percentage. So I was trying to get I had proposed 2 or 3 different ways of doing that. It's not in there. But I also don't remember that whereas right above it being at least placed right there. So I'm wondering if that was county manager's idea, is that, I don't know, I mean, does my point make sense? Does it seem clear to you that when people get to that description in the second whereas, it doesn't really, I didn't really want to add a sentence because I don't want to confuse it, but I thought it should say something like the county's portion or county would use, so that it wasn't.
So of the county portion, 75% for this.
Something like that. I mean, like I say, it's wordsmithing. I don't know. It was one of the things that I had tried to put in here.
I think it kind of clarifies what the county.
It's more just about, I don't want to be accused later of like we hit the ball in some way or it was deceptive in some way when we said, like if the cities don't decide to use as much for direct, like we're saying, exclusive law enforcement services, then someone would say, oh, you said it was going to be 75%, but it's not because the cities are using more, less. And when you read that second whereas, it's really not limited. Desires similar to be used exclusively to support law enforcement services, etc. 75%. That's not really. It's the the county's portion would be used in that way. Maybe that's clear when you read the one above it, you know, that, but it's still, I think, a little bit loose.
Well, we can take it back and with that and try to make a final edit for your review tomorrow, just to kind of provide that clarity. I see.
I think it should basically say to be used. Yeah, I mean, even if you say to be used by the county, that's not really clear. I think it really needs to say something like, in accordance with RCW 8214-450, comma, the county's portion to be used exclusively to support, or the county share, like, you know, that way no one can say that we're representing that the full 75% of all dollars collected from the public goes to law enforcement, because we don't have control over that.
I think what I might recommend, commissioners, would be to split the second whereas on page 2 and actually move this last sentence up to a new whereas. So therefore it reads, whereas per RCW in the first one, there's a 60-40 split. And whereas the county desires to use its portion exclusively to support law enforcement services, et cetera, so on and so forth, for the remainder of that one. And then the final one, whereas the Thurston County Board of Commissioners desires to submit a proposition to county voters authorizing the additional sales and use tax, and just end that one at the RCW site, and then go on to the following one. So it goes from, here's the 60-40 split, here's what the county desires to utilize its portion for, and therefore the board therefore desires to place this matter on the ballot.
Yeah, I mean, so you're, take the second half of that
And
basically
move it up.
Either add it to the early one or make it separate.
I think maybe making it separate so that it's clear that this, regardless of what the count or the cities choose to do, this is the county's intent.
Okay, I would feel a little more comfortable with that, so that there's no.
Okay, I will make that edit and bring it back for you for your review tomorrow. But that should be pretty straightforward.
Anything else, Commissioner Edwards? Okay, great. Now we will then go to 5B, which is the ILA proposal to form an opioid abatement council independent subcommittee.
So I don't know if we have anyone online for this one. The board likely will recall that there was a prior action for the One Washington settlements for the opioid settlement funds that are being collected. There was a requirement as part of that One Washington agreement to create these regional opioid abatement committees or abatement councils. This then will sort of put into effect an agreement for a subcommittee of that regional that includes the other counties, specifically for the Thurston County as well as Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater. And then therefore this entity, the subcommittee, will be the one that will make recommendations for funding from the dollars that are received through the settlements. And this item does, as Commissioner Mejia had a question on Friday about the structure of the agreement, and as to why it was actually for directing the county manager's signature, and double checked with the original interlocal agreement actually was executed under the county manager's signature, so this form is just following that.
No, I'm not either. Great. Item 6 is a CPED item. Final action for the minor amendment to 6-year capital improvement program for 2023, 2028, and on. It's here. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Baum, Community Planning. So this agenda item is the amendment to the 2023 to 2028 Capital Improvement Program. If you recall, we saw it in May for a public hearing on May 23rd, and a budget adoption and a TIP approval or amendment to the TIP program on June 6th. And so this is the third piece of the puzzle that once all combined, the amendment will be fully approved and staff will be able to move forward and work on. I'm available for any questions.
This is just more or less a finalization of what we've been working toward.
That's correct. We had to finalize a noticing procedure, and so it's finally over as of today, so we are knocking it out today, tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Public Health and Social Services is up next, and item 7A is Developmental Disabilities Administration County Program Agreement. Mark Moffett here from PHSS.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Moffett, Social Service Program Manager of the PHSS. Before you is our annual contract with Developmental Disabilities Administration. And this contract allows us to provide employment services, community inclusion services for people with developmental disabilities in our community. We also do community outreach and training for families with children and with developmental disabilities. We also do, through this contract, school to work activities. So a student with developmental disabilities, we hope to get them a job before they leave high school, before they graduate. And this is for $6,513,844. The majority of that goes to direct services in our community to our 5 main providers: Morningside, Center for Spottis, EFI, and Career Quest.
And the funding comes from?
Developmental Disabilities Administration, DSHS.
Good,
All right.
thank you.
All right.
And so the board knows, Commissioner Mejia did request, because it's been a little while since we've had an update to the board about the Developmental Disabilities Program, to do a briefing in the not too distant future.
September,
So working with Jamie on finding a time.
Okay.
So I'll be back many more times this summer to see you guys with veterans and DD and.
Very good.
Thank you.
Item 7B, contract between Thurston County and City of Lacey for monitoring of Hicks Lake. Stuart Whitford.
Good morning, Commissioners. So yeah, this is a contract with City of Lacey, 4-year contract. Previously, this has been like a 1-year contract, so we worked together with the city to produce this particular 4-year agreement, and so we're excited about it. Basically, what we're doing is sampling Hicks Lake on the behalf of the City of Lacey, so they can make lake management decisions, essentially. So we're talking about nutrients, secchi transparency, all the basic lake monitoring activities that we do. And it's,
Because we've got more capacity to do.
at this time, yes. Yeah, so it's a good relationship between us and the city. It's been going on.
Is this per year?
It's for 4 years.
So it's
Yeah, it's for 4 years. The total cost is I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me,
It's $30,899
for that total contract?
for the total
For
contract.
For
for
every-
the 4 years.
yeah, for the whole 4 years, yes.
Are we going out and getting those
That's
samples?
correct.
And how does that work? The community calls in and says there's a bunch of algae, come
Oh,
check
so this
it?
is ongoing monitoring. This is like between May and October, where we go out monthly on a regular schedule and sample Hicks Lake for these various water quality parameters, collect the samples, have them analyzed, enter the data into an Excel spreadsheet, and at the end of the year, we send the data to the city, essentially, so.
But if something's out of whack, then we tell them, they make the notification.
So the other part of it is we have a regular cyanobacteria response program that we do. So if we get calls about cyanobacteria in Hicks Lake, we'll go out and sample it and send it to the laboratory for analysis and do postings and all that kind of stuff.
This covers the cost, as far as you know.
Not too bad. We ate up for a little,
Okay.
for early tech issues.
All right, Public Works is next. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager. We've got, looks like 2 items related to Offutt Lake.
Yes, good morning. So the first item is consideration of the ordinance which would create Offutt Lake Management District number 24. This is the next statutory step in the process for the creation of the district. The board was briefed, I believe, 4 or 5 weeks ago on the results of the election that was held within that community. The board at that briefing requested that we get an interpretation by legal of the board's options. At that point, that interpretation came back such that the board had a couple different decision points in the process, but once the vote was authorized and passed, then there really is no option but for the board to move forward with the creation of the district.
Okay.
We've forwarded on that string, that email chain to the commissioners and your assistants on Friday, just to make sure everyone had the same language. But right, the point of discretion was the board action to actually place it for a vote. But once the vote occurs, then, and in this case, is a weighted vote that came out in the affirmative, then the board, it gets to that shall word, that shall move forward with an ordinance to actually create the LMD.
Commissioner?
Are we getting ahead of ourselves by actually creating that ordinance now, before we have our public hearing?
It is sequential that way. So you actually have to create, you have, to date, there really are only proposed rates. As the initiative goes out to the residents and the voters of the proposed LMD, then you create the LMD through the ordinance and then hold a hearing, which allows individuals who will be assessed to sort of contest the rates that are assigned to them, as I understand it.
Very, very close. I would only add, it's more for the community to contest whether there's been a mistake or not. The rates are part of the public process. They're part of what was voted on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a public hearing for the community to come in and say, hey, you know, we are listed as an upland owner and being charged as such. We're really, you know, something else. So it's an opportunity for them to come in and make us aware of any mistakes in that level of
And
assessment.
then are we in a position that we can say, well, yes, you're right, or no, we don't
Yes.
disagree, whatever?
Correct.
And we can make a change even though we've already created that ordinance.
Yes, if there were any mistakes made, we would come back with a briefing and make you aware of that. And then the board could either approve it, they could approve a corrected version of the rule, or they could kick it back if there are, you know, egregious mistakes in it.
But an example that I remember was like when Black Lake, they had like mobile home parks, and you know, there was an argument that they shouldn't be charged in that way. It wasn't fair, and that's not the kind of decision that we're making. Like the scheme is set up is more just like, oh, a math error was made or a categorization error was made. We couldn't go back and say, you know what, we agree, it's not fair to charge the mobile home park owner, and so we're gonna reduce your, like, that's not in their purview.
That's correct.
Remember this discussion on that, in that context. Okay, and that covers really items 8A and 8B. So we have to take an action. It's very pretty much like we have to take action 8A.
Correct.
To vote. And then 8B, we need to set a public hearing, and I guess we would have discretion as to what date to set for that, but we're looking at August 22nd.
Correct.
That's correct.
Everybody good? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Sheriff's Office item. Chief Carter is here, and this item is reimbursement contract with City of Seattle for Celebrate training.
So a significant portion of the cases that come into detectives have some type of technology component that requires extraction
and analysis of data. Our current forensic examiner is retiring and his last day is on Friday. So we found training and funding for that training to send 2 of our detectives to Cellbrite training, which is extraction and analysis of data from cell phones specifically. And so the grant is through Seattle PD. Both risk management and the prosecutor's office has looked at the grant. And they're a subservient of the grant through a federal grant for internet crimes against children. So we're just specifically asking to receive that grant and send both of our detectives to that training, that Cellbrite training.
In essence, we're getting $10,000 with the free training.
Yes.
basically, right? The taxpayers locally don't have to pay for it, it's coming in the form of a grant.
Yes.
Sounds like a no-brainer.
I'll get back to that.
And the-
Thank you.
The sheriff's office general fund budget will cover the $5 difference.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have outstanding items under 10A, B, and C. And then we will have 2 public hearings at 3:30 about, to consider, looks like a couple of items about our water and sewer utility.
Consolidation.
Ken's back. Here we have a consolidation and a code change. And they're in this particular order. Is this the correct order they need to be in? We've got the code.
Go first.
Mhm.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that is correct. Both of these are, well, one is loosely associated with utility consolidation, the other one is directly associated with utility consolidation. They'll run back to back. This follows a pretty robust outreach process, including the open houses in each of the communities that we had week before last.
How
So
do those go, by the way?
they went really, really well. Not a lot of turnout, but good feedback. Grand Mound, as an example, had no ratepayers that showed up for the open house. Tamashan had, I believe, 2 that were from the community, and Boston Harbor had a few more folks. I'm guessing probably a dozen folks came out. We're compiling all of those comments, both the comments that came in as a result of the advertisement that are coming into the Public Works public hearing website or the county's public hearing website, as well as any emails or other comments that we have. So those will be compiled. It's open until this afternoon, so after that closes, we'll get all of those over to you. But yes, this is a public hearing to consider comments to the ordinance updates, which as of last Friday, we have received no public comments on. And then we would follow that up with comments regarding the consolidation of the funds and consolidation moving towards the combined rate structure, of which we've received a few good comments on.
But it sounds like we're headed down that path you've been working with us on for.
Yes, and what I would add, this might be a good time to do it, is some of the feedback that we've heard, and I think the board has heard as well. The majority of the few concerns that we have heard are related to how we will manage the utility advisory committees. There was a request primarily from the Boston Harbor folks to move forward with an election versus what we had originally proposed is appointment by the board. Great feedback from the community on this. We have considered it at Public Works, and after reviewing it, see no issue with that. So I drafted a draft resolution that would move us in that direction so that we would manage elections very similar to how we have managed Boston Harbor's Utility Advisory Committee in the past. So
Would they be the only one, or each system would then elect from their ratepayers?
each system would elect. We would manage a direct mailing through the utility bill inserts, similar to how we do now. go out to all of the ratepayers. We would follow that same structure that we were proposing. So a 7-person utility advisory committee, 2 each from Boston Harbor, Tamashan, Grand Mound, because they have water and wastewater utilities, and 1 committee member from Olympic View. So we'd have a 7-person committee that was elected, and I think that will go a long ways with the few folks that were concerned about that.
Okay, I think you answered all the questions I had. Olympic View is water only.
Sewer only. It's a large on-site septic system. 27 customers, if memory serves.
And right now, okay, this is where I knew there was something. Right now, I know there's a Boston Harbor Advisory Committee,
Yes.
but do the others have that, anything like that right now?
Boston Harbor has a UAC, Tamashan has a UAC, Olympic View has loosely a UAC. They have 1 representative that the community puts forward to meet with the county, and we can share information with them.
Not Grand Mountain.
Not Grand Mountain, so this will be an improvement from our perspective.
Interesting, okay. So a 7-member, and what are you calling it, like in terms of an acronym?
Utility Advisory Committee, UAC.
Okay.
And we'll have packets ready tomorrow for any public that come in. They already have the packets. They've been made aware at the open houses, but we'll have packets available tomorrow with the history and some of the other information.
History of how the county got into the business.
Correct.
Right, I was thinking I would. Okay, good, thank you. Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Well,
Good time management.
that gives us 1 minute to.
I don't think you
refill
can
our-
get it any closer.
Okay, well, that concludes then today's agenda review. We are back in session here just shortly for a long session regarding capital.
All day capital improvements before we get
Capital
to
improvement work
the,
session, so make sure you tune into that here just very shortly.
Exciting.
We're adjourned.
and we will be rebooting the computer, right?